So, good morning, everyone. One request to everyone is please add your organization name along with your name so that it is easy for us to identify who represented from which community. So, this has been workshop has been planned to equip the community partners when they are ready with their proposal to um, look at the proposal in such a way that we can do many things which are easily doable in the neighborhood. So I welcome WRI team, Sudeep, Rajiv, Meghna, Madhura, and Chetan, who will be conducting the session for you. And I request Sanmay to say what before we start the session.
Thank you, Manju. Good morning, all the Suba partners, WRA team, and all my colleagues from DALT. Since we have already a bit late, I will be very short. As you know, the purpose of this workshop is to bring in and introduce to all of you on certain concepts and ideas that are very relevant to the proposal making. And since we have moved from survey analysis and we'll soon be starting the working on the intervention areas and proposals. So this workshop will be the first in its kind where we'll be introducing with you on the concepts and ideas. And this will also be helpful to you in getting some possible ideas on the tactical interventions and designs that you will be bringing in your respective communities in discussion with all of us. So with that, I wish all the best for the session. Over to you, WRE team and Rajiv. Please start. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanmay sir, and hello everyone. I'm Rajiv from WRI. I hope we have got to interact earlier, but just thought I'll introduce myself, and we have our other team members as well, Sudeep, Madhura, and Chetan, like they were introduced. And also thanks to Sanmay sir to give a brief about the key intent, of this whole workshop which we are doing today. So the idea was to, so far the data has been collected and there is this set of analysis which is happening for, data collected for each of your neighborhoods. But it also sort of becomes important considering the short timeline of the project and the way it is progressing, and considering, let's say we have about next 6 months or 8 months left to jump to next step of each of your neighborhood projects. The goal of this workshop is to sort of take that next step from data collection towards design, and also how to sort of create your proposals. So along this set of coming months, there will be.
We are losing you number of times.
Okay. You can hear me now? Is it clear?
Rajiv, I think, can everyone hear?
Yeah, I think
yes, Rajiv, we could hear you.
To me, I'm able to hear properly.
Yeah, we can hear you, Rajiv.
Yeah, you can continue, please.
Okay. Maybe I will switch off my video if that can help. Yeah. Gautam, you had a question? Just quick check. You had raised your hand.
Actually, ma'am, this is Shankar here. Sorry to interrupt you. I think our team members got some wrong link and they have joined some wrong link. So they're coming back. I've just sent them the right link and they're coming back here. Sorry.
Okay, sure. Okay, so maybe we'll continue. So like I was saying, the idea is to sort of jump to the next step of design process, and we will be having a series of workshops, discussions, presentations, depending on how each of the teams will also progress. At the same time, we are looking to have a set of generic presentations which will be useful for everyone. So these are not really sort of instructional based presentations as such, but more to make it a little more interactive, and they will in a way feed into your every stage of your project. So this particular one, I'm just sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, visible, Raj. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so the first of the multiple series of presentations or workshop we'll be doing, the first one today which we'll be doing is Design for All, where we are essentially looking at the aspect of design principles for the projects, and how do these design principles help shape your projects. The idea is to sort of take a step back, as much as you have worked on your proposals so far in when you're submitting, but this presentation will help you to take that kind of a step back to look at the overall framing of your project and how each of these design principles will help feed into your long-term proposals which you are doing. So to start with a quick background, the idea of projects usually being shaped as project-based solutions, which can create a short-term impact. Usually we look at these point-based intervention, let's say create a footpath or create a small intervention in public space, more of these sorts. Which of course are have that immediate impact, but at the same time, there needs to be a thought given for a long term as well as a scale up kind of a strategy for that. And hence the second point, there's a need to understand the larger vision and intent of this project in order to create a long term impact. And this eventually helps you to achieve a more comprehensive outcome, where rather than looking at one street and doing something, if you think of a larger vision of how it can impact your neighborhood, both in terms of scale as well as impact to the number of people who stay there, that creates a more fruitful solution for the kind of proposals you are doing. So in order to support that, what we're trying to do is, we try to divide this into three sections. One is the principles. So these principles essentially help you determine the key values of your project. And in this in turn helps you guide the intent and the design components. We will explain each one of these in detail when we go to the next set of slides. But the related to the principal parts, principles are the project interventions, where you're looking at creating both spatial as well as non-spatial solutions, which are developed based on these key principles. Spatial, when I mean, it is more in terms of, let's say, infrastructural interventions like I was saying, footpaths, streetlights, benches, any of that sorts. Non-spatial should be could be something which is more like an awareness program or creating a better community participation, more of these sorts. The third would be the design components, which are essentially derived both from principles and project interventions, these are actual sort of interventions you do on ground, where when I say street improvement, the design components will end up being your actual elements of design. Let's say the footpath or street lighting or the bollards or the junction improvements, more of that sorts. So to sort of derive those design components and interventions, we have come up with these 6 principles, which kind of overarch most of your proposals which you are already doing. So what we did was we broadly understood how each one of the proposals were submitted, and also what is required as a part of a SUMA initiative, which is talking about the aspect of improving mobility and public spaces in the city. So based on that, we have derived these 6. By the end of the presentation, if any of you feel that there is something more which could be added to this as a part of principles, depending on the nature of project you are doing, it would be great to sort of hear from each one of you in that. Yeah. We start with the first principle, which is accessible. I'll just hand it over to Madhura. So she'll sort of quickly run through 3 principles, and then I'll get back to the other 3. Madhura, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. Hello, everyone. So like Rajiv mentioned that these are a few principles of, what to principles while we have to design our proposals in our communities, right? So these principles should be definitely considered, because a lot of us have been shaping our projects around universal accessibility, or some of us are actually looking at shaping our projects around for different age groups, different abilities. So so these are a few things that we have to look at. So starting with that, what does accessibility mean to you? Can anyone just say what what do you mean by accessibility? What would you think while you are doing a proposal? Anybody?
Anybody with any type of challenge should be able to use it.
Yes. So accessibility for different abilities. Yes. Someone else raised hand.
Yeah. So that's what anybody can use it without any obstacles. So like
Yes.
senior citizen, differentially able, and children.
Yes. Yes, so every space. So it is also about having those streets being usable, also spaces, public spaces being usable for everyone. Yeah. Yes. Wow group.
Sorry, we just no reply. I wanted to lower the hand. I just raised. Sorry for that.
Okay. So then what? So we spoke about
Also,
having. Yeah. Yes.
Also, looking at leveraging technology and signages, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just about physically. It could be visually. It could be audible, right? So sometimes people have hearing problems. People have following the instruction readability. So we need to look at holistic view, not just.
Great. Yeah, so when Rajiv showed us that slide about what are interventions that we look at, what are different, and then different components. So these what you mentioned, they form components of making a space universally accessible, right? So it's a very important point, that if we are looking at these principles, how do we translate them when we are doing it in the neighborhood? So that's a very good point. I think great. So Rajiv, can you move to next slide? Yeah. So overall, I think we spoke about these, that the spaces have to be universally accessible to all age groups as well as all abilities. Then we also spoke about access to there should be a proper access to different streets as well as to public spaces. So everyone should be able to access these public spaces. So a little, not a design perspective, but also from a social perspective, that how these spaces can be accessible to the to everyone. Then integration with larger network. Now, what does that mean? We'll look at it a little ahead. So Rajiv, next. Yeah, thanks. So universal accessibility should be for differently abled, for all age groups, for different gender as well. So what does it? We have seen a lot of parks which are like newly constructed, but they are not used by anybody. So why does that happen? Sometimes it's just that there is no lighting enough, so women don't feel safe in those. Some of those streets are like that. They are newly done, newly footpath constructed, but then people are scared to use those, and they ultimately try and walk on the road because probably there's no light. Probably it's still not enough or unobstructed. So these kind of things are important. Now in the picture, what you see here, you can see those tactiles. Rajiv, can you point at that, please? So yeah, so these are for the blind. So these tiles have those circles which are marked as well as those strips. They help you understand, that they help them understand to walk or stop, where to stop, where to walk, and also help them guide the direction. And also the spacing between the bollards are such that a wheelchair can also pass through. So these are different things we generally see in our streets, and they are from the perspective of universal accessibility. Next. Then of course access to public spaces. Now it is talking about a network that through cycling, through walking, through public transport, can we create or improve access to public spaces. Then prioritizing location of new public spaces or streets based on how we can create these networks, or how can these spaces be made accessible through walking or cycling, or having these public transport or bus stops nearby, so that people can go to these places very easily. Next. And the third thing, that integration with the larger network. Now, what does that mean? In the kind of studies that we have done till now, in the focus group discussions or in the household surveys, we have realized, we have understood the way people are moving around in our neighborhood. So can just making one street accessible works? No, right? It has to be a part of an overall network. Okay, we might do a pilot at one place, but then is it making, is it connecting all these, landmarks, or all these spaces where people move on daily basis? Are we connecting them together to form a nice network and overall making all these spaces? Now, what does activity nodes mean? Nodes mean, that shops where these people go daily, or those gardens where these old people, they go, they walk, and walk in the evening every day. So these kind of things, how can we integrate them together? So that is also part of accessibility. Next. So different components. So these are some of the components which make spaces accessible. So there have to be proper lighting and signages. There have to be ramps for accessibility. Now spaces have to be clean as well, so that otherwise we won't feel good to enter into a public toilet which is really not clean, right? So that also makes, so having cleanliness in the maintaining these spaces is also major component of making spaces accessible. Then, of course, tactile flooring, which we saw. Then signages and wayfinding in public spaces. So this is also something which, and someone mentioned about these things, right? There has to be signages. There have to be, these kind of wayfinding where these people can go and search. And these signages should be equipped with languages which are suitable for them, or they should have some, hearing aid which can help in listening to those things. And also integrating with the larger network. So these are different things, different components probably to make a space accessible. Then moving down to safe. Now here is a question I want to ask. Next. Okay, so this is a street, right? Somewhere in India. So do you think this street is safe for women? Can someone tell me?
No.
No.
Yeah, not
Okay,
at all.
but why do you think it is not safe?
No street lights.
Very isolated.
Yeah, isolated. Yeah.
So the road
Yeah.
is curved, anybody can snatch in and run away without, there cannot be any vision of what's
Yes.
happening.
Yes, that's a very good point. And why can this happen is also because if you see on both sides of the road, there is this huge compound wall. And there's nobody to see. I mean, this picture has been clicked in the afternoon, and if you see, there's no one on the street right now, right? And that is also because there is no shop, there is nothing here happening, no activity happening. That makes it unsafe. So any one of us would feel really unsafe while going there, even in the daylight, and imagine what happens at night. So of course, I mean, if we look at safety, there are different aspects of it. And someone also mentioned about not having footpaths here. So yeah, it's not just about safety or security, it's also about road safety here, that vehicles will just move here speedily if they are going, right? Because that whole space is there for them. So vehicles will move fast here. So what are different road safety measures also? So next. So if we look at safety, we need to look at gender safety, road safety, safety in public spaces, like we discussed earlier, that what makes a park, usable, that kind of a thing. And of course, non-spatial or behavioral measures. So what are these behavioral? So we'll look at it a little further. Next. Okay, so what makes a street safe for women? So we just discussed a few things that, there has to be adequate lighting, adequate infrastructure to support these things. And it's not just lighting, right? Sometimes more or less sometimes the women generally have their kids with them. So while they're walking, they might get tired. Can we have some seating spaces which are also well lit, which are shaded, where they can just stop for a while? These are very important from women's perspective as well, because a lot of them are caregivers in our context. So these are very important. And this also makes sense for older population as well, for the elderly as well. So then addressing safety through behavioral and special elements. So that is also like we discussed that, there was a compound wall on both sides. So no one really was seeing at it. So we talk about eyes on street, right? So can we even address safety through this? Now imagine if there were some shops over there. We wouldn't have been that much scared, right? Because there'll always be someone inside the shop. There'll be people around visiting those shops. Some activity would have been happening. So that makes that helps in enhancing safety of that area. Next. Okay, so the next component of safety is road safety. Of course, like we spoke about traffic calming. So because a lot of people in our focus group discussion, if you remember, spoke about having huge high-speed traffic in their area, and that makes them scared while they are crossing the street, while they are walking along the footpath, or those kind of things, or at the junction especially. So can we adopt some measures to create safe environments for all road users? Of course, while we are focusing on pedestrians, cyclists, how can we ensure or design streets in a way that we ensure safety? And of course, they can be done through different components such as traffic calming measures and different kind of things. So next. Then if now safety in public spaces. Now, have we ever seen that there are some empty spaces along the street which are just dump yards? They've been used for garbage dumps and all of that. So such spaces, imagine at night, they become very scary. I would feel very scary to walk in front of them. So in that cases, how can we leverage these spaces? So these kind of unused spaces are called residual spaces. So these residues along the streets, we find so they make those streets unsafe, or there are chances of having antisocial activities there, or it can be used for different ways. So in that case, how can we improve? So this example which you see on slide is an example of a dump yard getting converted into a play space. So having this space around on the streets can also help in making it safe as well. Next. Okay, so now can only doing certain intervention be enough for making helping or making an area or our neighborhood safe? No, right? So like all of us are engaging with the people in our community. So can we talk to people in our community more about these things? Can we have awareness workshops? Can we have safety marshals who can actually look at these things, who can make sure that these spaces are used the way they should be? Right? Can we talk to kids about these road safety issues? Can we educate them about these things? Can we, so these community engagement programs, they help in making these interventions work. That park which was not used because of different reasons which we spoke, that probably having community to look at it, having people who live around it have a look at, just watch out for children who are playing there, can help make that space work. So these are different behavioral aspects which we should look at while we design. Yeah. So safety, so these are different components. I think we discussed these more or less, that active street facades are important, lighting is important. There should be a buffer between footpath and road space. There should be appropriate signages which tell that, okay, this is a pedestrian, there is a pedestrian crossing, you need to slow down. These things. Next. Now talking about green. Now green can mean many things. So next slide. Okay, so have you taken any green initiatives in our in your neighborhood? I know a few neighborhoods do that, but can you talk about it? What you do in your community?
Yeah, it's from our group. We have taken a lot of green initiatives in our neighborhood. Like, we started with like what we're talking about, awareness for the kids. Like, in our programs we include any program we include kids, so that they are also educated about that. We have created a wow garden where we plant all medicinal plants and flowers. And so kids also are involved in it. So kids they will plant the saplings and all. So they know the importance of it. And when it's growing also, they're also happy seeing the plant growing in the tree along with them. And also we do a lot of awareness program in the street to save trees, plants, saplings, and we exchange the plants for few occasions. And if you have any programs, we gift plants instead of giving anything for any guest or any participants who come to give the saplings. And we also have something called living composters. Also, we consider a green initiative because we convert our wet waste into a black gold. So that's also one thing we are doing where street people are involved. So much very much into green initiatives. So all our programs will be having something or the other way. We educate and orient people to know more about different sustainable products, converting the waste into wealth, and thinking about your environment, the ecosystem to be eco-friendly products we use. So these are the green initiatives we take here.
Yeah, great. Good to know that these are some really important initiatives where and the good part of it is that also community is involved in these initiatives. Some others have also raised hand. Jayanti?
Yeah, see, HSR Citizen Forum is known for all the green initiatives. Okay, solid waste management, and then plastic. Which also means that reducing the plastic, reducing the single-use disposable, reducing the reject waste. So, Green the Red campaign, which is a sustainable menstruation session that goes on, awareness sessions about segregation, composting, and then this is a regular part. We have one of its kind, Swachhagraha Kalika Kendra in HSR layout, which has a lot of visitors. We conduct regular workshops for all this organic terrace gardening, composting, and also teach them sustainable way of life.
Yeah.
And there are many more actually. So I will just, I think people know about HSR Citizen Forum.
Yeah, great. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Purushottam, you have raised hand.
Yeah, hello. So from change makers of Kanakpura Road, we have taken quite a green initiatives. Be sapling, planting the saplings in the Thurali Forest, tree park area, which is actually native to that particular place. And if I would like to mention about this recent Thurali Forest tree project, which we managed to stop from the government, and we requested them to keep the forest as it is so that there is no trespassing by anybody from the nearest places. So that was one of the action that we took as an organization, which was there for 15 to 20 days, and finally they stopped the project so that we can protect the forest as it is.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing. Next, Achyuta Rao.
Yeah, good morning, madam. I am Achyuta Rao from Nandi Woods apartment in Begur ward. And actually, I am part of this SWAR group also. We have done a lot of tree plantations and that is plastic garbage cleaning all through the road and cutting the bushes. And now I am part of another group. We have done at behind the TLF township in Akshaynagar. There is one Kalyani that is called Gundu Topu. We have planted last week about 500 plants, saplings, and there is one Kalyani also. We are going to develop into the mini forest, and also Meenakshi Lake. We are rejuvenating, and we are also planting in the pathway all these plants for which is useful for birds, trees, so that we will get back the greenery to our surroundings, and it will be beautiful for next generations also. That's
Great.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. I guess our communities have been doing so many initiatives under green. We have a lot to learn from all of you. But so I guess Rajiv, next slide, please. Yeah, so I think we discussed more or less all of these, right? That there have to be local landscape. You mentioned about having native vegetation or native kind of plantations in these spaces. We talked about different renewable sources as well. We spoke about like composting, using talking about recycling local waste. We talked about community green initiatives as well. A lot of communities are doing that, but these are some amazing examples what we are already doing. So let's look at it as an overall. So we spoke about having an integrated plan. So let's let's not look at these projects in isolation, but these initiatives can help transform our communities overall. So let's also consider let's also consider these things while we define that overall projects, where we are talking about streets, we are talking about cycling infrastructure, we're talking about public transport. Let's look at overall integrating these different initiatives that we are already doing and we would like to do under SUMA, and have an overall idea of while we are designing our proposals, or while we are going towards defining our proposals, right? So because that's the next step we are going to do. So how these different principles can come together with what we are already doing and what we would like to do under SUMA. So let's try and bring it together. So next, I guess we spoke a lot about how we can now incorporating these natives. So how we can incorporate that? These can be there as part of our streets. They can be they can become part of our public spaces, or these plantation initiatives that we are doing. So we should make them as part of it. Next. Yeah. And then there are also, in ways in which renewable resources can be used, like, solar, rainwater harvesting, creating sustainable and economic solutions. So this is an example of a rain garden along the street, where all the stormwater drains, stormwater is collected in these areas, and, the rainwater harvesting can be done in this way. Next. Of course, we spoke, I think a lot of us are working in this, like, looking at circular economy, recycling this local waste, how to reuse and recycle waste. Someone also spoke about composting, someone spoke about recycling the plastic waste. So, and then of course, facilitating jobs around this, so that, these internal resources within the neighborhoods can be used for overall in the neighborhood. So next. Yeah, and of course the community green initiatives. So overall, incorporating, we can incorporate these the green as a principle in different ways. One is by incorporating green for thermal comfort. So can we plant trees around where we have footpaths so that we get shaded walkways? We can have clean energy options. We can have community green initiatives, and these kind of components overall can help us make the spaces green. Rajiv, over to you for next principles.
Yeah, thanks, Madhura. I'll just shift to the next principle, which is collective, where so I just wanted to also understand, when we say collective, it is also for the neighborhoods to sort of come together. If any one of you could very quickly highlight what is the strength of your neighborhood. It could be anything, but based on your experiences in the past, what do you think really makes your neighborhood, work together? If anybody wants to take that question.
Rajiv, can we just have it again? We couldn't, it's not little clear, please.
Yeah, no, I was asking, when we say collective, it sort of means working together. I wanted to understand from any of you that what makes your neighborhood, what is the strength of your neighborhood, and in terms of working together?
We we involve everybody. See, everybody, almost at least one participant from each house. So that is one strategy we have. So we have a lot of participation from senior citizens and children. So that is a big strength for us. So where everybody gets involved in terms of ideas and implementation. That is what we realized in this past 1 year.
We also make sure that we have other officials also informed and being involved in whatever we are doing. So that when it comes to composting, we have health inspector. When it comes to some we create awareness, create more of greenery or streets. Like how you said, we should have right spacing of lights and all. So we involve the BESCOM people. So we also involve many officials in our program so that we work mutually. It should not be only citizen oriented, or it should not be only officials oriented. It should be like a community which involves everyone. So it is like mutual. So we always work with a mutual concept.
And we have a good network. And also we try to participate in other activities. Also, it's not that we are just confined. So that also has helped us a lot.
Yeah. No, that's actually a very great point. The idea of involving every single kind of a resident, right from a kid to a senior citizens to working class, but at the same time also looking at involving the officials or concerned authorities who are serving in the neighborhood. That's a very great point. Anyone else? Achyuta Rao?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am also part of one beautiful Begur group, which this is a involvement of the citizens as well as the officials. Suppose we collect trash alongside the roads. Then we request the BBMP, we dump it, collect it at one place, they come and collect it. Again, around the lakes also, there is a lot of plastic generation. So they, in cooperation with the BBMP team, it is being collected on the spot so that it won't be littered once again. And it is a great participation, entire family members, children, senior citizens, and we enjoy it. Mostly during weekends, we plan this. Now we are going to that Gottigere Lake. We want to rejuvenate, and tomorrow we'll be planting around 200 samplings there. So it is an ongoing process. It is not that it stops at one time.
Yeah.
So that is one way of involving the citizens as well as the officials in contribution.
Sure.
Yeah, that is what I want to contribute. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Can we have? Yeah. Thank you. Can we have Mr. Gautam? Gautam, are you there? You're muted in case you're talking. Okay, we can come back to Mr. Gautam and Purushottam. Mr. Purushottam.
Everyone. As most of the organization told, our change makers of Kanakpura Road, basically their original strength lays in handling a different kind of people, starting from kids and to the senior citizens. And we bring the awareness so that everybody gets involved. And the biggest strength would be the amount of awareness which is present, which is very, very good, so that whatever we communicate, they're able to relate it well. And then, so we are able to execute it, seamlessly. And we also concentrate only on hyper local issues, as in, whatever we are able to go there and we are able to solve it, it should be accessible, it should be within our limits. So only then such kind of issues we take up and we communicate and we are able to execute it without any problem.
Okay, thanks a lot. We have BNS Ratnakar. Yes, sir, please. Sir, you are muted in case you are talking.
Greetings to each one of you who have attended this meeting, Suma. I am BNS Ratnakar. retired executive from Central Bank of India, part of HSR Citizen Forum. I would like to talk something about the tree plantation greening activities which we are taking up at HSR layout. Over a period of 4 years, we have planted around 2,000 trees in Agara Lake and the other lanes also. We have planted trees in the vacant spaces and all that. We have taken the support of BBMP, who have been generous in supplying the sapling and also the tree guards and other things. We not only undertake plantation of sapling, we also undertake maintenance of these on regular basis, like watering, mulching, and the compost which we make from our Uchagra Kalika Kendra in HSR layout and feed these plants on regular basis. We also pulled some funds and bought a machine through which we are decluttering the base of the plants which are being tarred, and there is no water seepage into the area around the base of the plant. So we have taken up this activity of some footing, and we have been able to declutter and remove the tar and the cement which was put around the plants. So with that, I think the survival of the trees which are already grown, it has improved. And it was an amazing thing to see some of the tree guards which got embedded into the trees because they were not removed by the BBMP authorities once they have grown. So it was a very painful sight to see. And with the help of some of our colleagues, we took the cutters and all that, and again took the support of BBMP and removed more than about 100 tree guards which got embedded into the trees and which was almost killing the plants. So we took that initiative and we have removed those tree guards, and we have taken steps to remodel them and reuse them wherever we undertake tree plantation, because BBMP doesn't provide iron tree guard. So it's very difficult on the main roads to do that. There are many challenges because many citizens do not want the trees to be planted in front of their houses. But we, as volunteers, we go around and educate them the importance of the trees and also ensure that the trees are planted in such a way their entry is not affected. And that way we have been able to with a lot of tree plantation. And we also taken up some tree census through Vuksha model, Vuksha app by one tree doctor, Vijay Nishant. So we are trying to capture the data of the existing trees in HSR layout. It gives a lot of information on the trees with regards to its age and its category and the girth of the plant and all that. This will ensure that the trees are not felled unnecessarily by citizens. If at all something happens to these trees, the cases can also be filed against them, whoever is indulging in it. Okay. So there are many challenges. Nevertheless, with the active support of all the volunteers, and we are able to go a long way in tree plantation. And I'm sure with the pandemic waning to some extent, this year also we can go ahead with much more of tree plantation. There was one more.
Sir, sorry, sir. Could we just come back to your points after the presentation? I mean, we just have some more part to cover. Okay. Is that okay?
Okay, it's okay. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for those inputs. Sorry, we had missed out on Mr. Gautam. So, Gautam, if you're still there, can you respond? Okay. So maybe we'll just come back to Mr. Gautam, I think, once the presentation is done. Hello. We can't hear you, Mr. Gautam, if you're talking. Okay, maybe I'll just continue. I think after the presentation, you could sort of respond. Yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for all those inputs, and I think this is more of a consolidated point in terms of all that you have mentioned so far. The idea of having collective approach, like most of you mentioned, it could be in terms of gender, economic groups, age groups, as well as different abilities. So we are trying to sort of look at how we make every single representative of the community a part of the kind of initiative or the proposals you do. Of course, I didn't come across anyone talking about involving like different economic groups. Let's say if there is a lower economic group in your community, is there a way, or any of your neighborhoods have done that? So maybe we'll come back to this question post the presentation, but that's something very critical to also look into, so that the kind of solutions you do kind of address these people as well, because most of the time the lower economic groups often lack the necessary infrastructure and support which is required. And hence also looking at the idea of coherent planning with the community. We are then looking at the second part, this coherent planning. We are talking about engaging with all the other stakeholders and neighborhoods of all at all stages of the project. This also becomes important, where it's not just about doing a stakeholder consultation in the beginning when you're collecting data, and then all of a sudden you go towards the end and show them the proposal that this is what you've done. But in the intermediate stages, while there could be some critical inputs which could help your project shape better, it sort of becomes important that you schedule these different stakeholder consultations within your neighborhood and constantly update them with each stages of the project. Yeah. The second part is organizing regular workshops and discussions to seek feedback from community at all stages of the project. Yeah. So this is very critical, so that as and when you plan your project, also make sure that you have planned these kind of interaction and discussion, not because Suma is mandating it, but at the same time, it's important for you to get the necessary feedback from all representations of the neighborhood. The next one is the idea of contextual. Question is why do you think the local context sort of becomes important, and how does it benefit your neighborhood? And I mean, in a way to also ask is, have you observed anything different in your neighborhood as compared to other neighborhoods in the city? And also, why do you think these kind of elements become important as a part of your neighborhood? Can anyone take that? We'll just take one or two comments because I think we are already running a little late. But anyone wants to say any strengths of your neighborhood? It could be the geography, or where your neighborhood is located, or it could be the idea of community, or any kind of activities happen in your neighborhood, or it could be transport. Anything which you think is very nice in your neighborhood as compared to other neighborhoods. Yeah, Mr. Rishi.
Yeah, so we keep doing a lot of cycling events and plantation drives, right? So we see a lot of participation, especially the lakes around. A lot of awareness among the kids, right? So we need to look at we need to also look at demographic, right? So how do we have the breakup between the different demographic, whether we have a lot of kids, a lot of working population, a lot of people living. So it's a mix of audiences, right? So we need to break our programs, keeping everybody's interest in mind.
Okay, fine. Okay, so you're basically in the strength of a neighborhood, you organize a lot of activities and initiatives, right?
That's right. And again, which is mapping the demographics. So it's not like we are trying to enforce it, right? So if you encourage participation, you need to also customize and make it more relevant.
Okay, fine. Anyone from Wove Group?
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of centers for differentiation in our area. So that is one.
Okay.
We have hospital, and then metro station close by. We have temple, market, and then big bazaar, everything. And also nearby, we have a slum, KSRT slum. So most of the maids come to our area. So earlier, we also have their volunteers and also their services. So it's also part of anything what we do. So we feel that we're fortunate to have all this. So we just want to get nice and a loop.
Okay, sure. I mean, broadly, you're saying you have the strength of a mixed development and activities in your neighborhood, which kind of becomes an integrated sort of an ecosystem that, you know, each one of you are dependent on one another, both for the kind of services you have and the people who exist. You know, that's a nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah, also demographic.
Yeah. Demographic. Yeah. Mr. Purushottam.
Yeah, hi. Hi. So the biggest strength of our community would be, you know, the most of the lane that we have surveyed and we have mapped. It is surrounding the Thurahalli forest, and also as WOW team just mentioned, you know, different kind of developmental activities. You know, we can find all kind of people, like, you know, starting from, you know, temples, schools, playgrounds, and you know, the people from the community. So, oh, and also we conduct a lot of cycling activities, plantation. So I think that is the biggest strength, and it's very unique to Microsoft.
So I would say, you know, the strength of having Thurahalli forest itself as a green element, which becomes an anchor for doing a lot of activities around. Yeah, that's a very nice point. Yeah. Okay. So that's, I mean, the good set of points. So the idea is, you know, the fact that you have this context, right? The strength of activities which you do in your neighborhood. It could be the forest itself. It could be like WOW Group said, you know, it's about having the mixed development and different communities staying. So the idea is to also bring in this context as a part of your solution. And that's the reason we're calling it a tailored solution, where there is a need to understand and adopt the local parameters which create a contextual solution. It could be environmental or socio-cultural aspects, but it is very important, you know, just because we have a big road and we want to develop it and we do it, but eventually we realize that only one part of the community can use it, but the rest can't use it, then it kind of becomes a failure, because of the same person from the lower income group is traveling across that road and he feels, you know, kind of secluded or feels that a bit alien, that feels a bit alien for him, then, you know, we are not really creating a success in the project. So any kind of intervention you do, please make sure that, you know, there are all the communities and all the parameters in your neighborhood is kind of included, so that that's when it becomes much more responsive as a solution. And at the same time, create a flexible approach to help strengthen the proposal at every stage of the project. When we are creating these proposals and also developing certain things, don't make, I mean, it's very hard to consider that this is my only approach and say I will plan these ABC steps and these are the only interventions I can do. But in future, when you're in the middle of the project and realize that there is some important aspect of the project which or someone very important who can influence the shaping of the project also gives a certain feedback, your scope of the project should be able to accommodate those kind of changes as and when you go, and that's how your project also evolves. And second is utilizing the core strengths of your neighborhood, like you are talking about, you know, it could be the location of the area which you are planning, or it could be a strong leadership. It could be active community involvement, like most of you mentioned. So these points are already covered. And the last one I'm coming to is the aspect of scalable option, right? Now that you have started to think about your proposals and there are certain principles approach to that, but it is also important to have a larger goal for the project or a larger vision for the project. So towards the right, if you see, these are these 4 steps or 5 steps which you take up in terms of data collection, proposal formation, maybe testing your solution on ground, and then permanent implementation, and finally scale up. So all of this is sort of connected with your vision. So the project is shaped through a larger vision as the key goal, and create a set of design components, activities, and timelines to sort of achieve this. So please keep in mind that, you know, there is a larger goal to sort of achieve. For example, if I'm developing one street, my goal can be to create an entire integrated network of pedestrian and cycling networks for this neighborhood. And the first step for doing this is we have picked up 2 or 3 streets to do this. It shouldn't happen that you just say, I have developed one street from point A to point B and that's it, it's done. Especially, you know, let's say a case like cycle track. You can't just have cycle track starting somewhere and ending somewhere without an integrated a loop which sort of integrates multiple points. Then it sort of becomes a failure, because the person who's cycling also will not feel safe about it. So any proposal you're trying to do, try to think of next 3 or 4 steps to say that, going forward, if at all there is an opportunity in terms of funding or potential for the project to grow, what is my ultimate goal for the neighborhood to achieve, and then come back to your first step of the current proposal you're doing, and that really helps. And that's what is defined here, where you could develop a replicable model and an adaptable model where it could where the following aspects could be adopted as a part of your neighborhood. So it could be actual design elements. You develop one street as a model in terms of footpath, lighting, everything. You say that we can adopt this in other 10 other streets in our neighborhood. Okay, that's good. Or if you think that it's not just the physical element, maybe there is a critical idea you have taken, especially like the waste collection, other parts which we are talking about. So that idea really works for us as a thing, but physically we might not be able to do the same thing everywhere. Even that is fine. You can replicate the idea itself in different parts of your neighborhood. And finally, it could be methodology itself. Like we have observed that there are different volunteers like you have formed, there are certain groups you have formed, and then the way you communicate with the neighborhood and also make sure that this project happens right from design till the implementation stage. So each one of your neighborhood have a unique way to do that, and maybe that whole process which you adopt to make a project happen. So this time you might be doing it for street and public spaces, but next time it could be for tree plantation or waste management or any of that sorts. So is there a way you can observe that methodology, how you have gone about creating this whole project and implementing that? And if you sort of document that methodology and sort of adopt that to other parts of your neighborhood, even that becomes a very, very useful tool to sort of do it. So also remember that the idea of documenting every stage of your project also becomes very important. And now that we have different neighborhoods as a part of SUMA, and doing these kind of calls and doing certain interactions might also help all of you to do create that kind of mutual learning, which kind of implies in the city level thing. So once we develop these 6 to 10 projects, can the rest of the city can look at it to say that hey, this neighborhood has taken up this kind of an idea and developed it really well. Can we kind of replicate that as a part of rest of the city? Or it could be even DULT or BBMP who can actually take up this idea and try to scale this up to rest of the city. Yeah. So with that, we have covered these sort of 5 or 6 principles, and we try to key in certain key ingredients which go into this. But even over and beyond this, if you feel that some of the based on the proposals you are doing, if there is something important or something else which could be added, we would love to hear that. If not immediately, over the time, as and when at any point if you want to just mail us saying that these are the ideas we have, is there a way we can include this as a principles? We are completely welcome with those kind of ideas. Yeah. We also are going to sort of share these references with all of you, which could be helpful for you to uplift the current project ideas which we have. And there are also a next series of presentations where we will decode this into smaller bits in terms of actually shaping your projects going forward. Yeah. So yeah.
Rajiv, I just wanted to add one point to overall summary of this presentation that we had. That all the communities, while you are developing your proposals, you will be coming up with 2 or more of these principles, or taking up one of these principles and developing your solution or developing your projects. So some will be using 1, some would be using 2 or more sort of these principles. But the idea behind showing all these principles to you together was that probably when we are developing solutions, there could be some other principles which might also be included in your proposal to make it more stronger and make it work while we implement it under SUMA. So the idea behind talking about all these principles was to choose the right principle for your neighborhood. What makes it, what will make your proposal more suited to your community. So yeah, I mean, just look at these principles from that perspective while you start developing your proposal. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. Also, just to extend from what Madhura is saying, The other part also being that when we are talking about this principle, it's completely up to you and your team to decide whether you want to pick one or two or all of them. It's completely open. But what is also important to understand is when we take up each of these principles, although they are shown independently, in some or the other way, there are certain interconnections between each one of these principles. And we saw that when we were explaining certain things, right? For example, the aspect of safety and accessibility. Both of them are still talking about footpaths, but while one talks about access in terms of infrastructure, all of those, the same thing also connects to the idea of bringing in safety. So when I take lighting as an element, that also caters to the accessibility as well as safety. So it's more in that sense. So there are a lot of interconnections also between each one of these principles. So it is very tough to say that only one of it serves for so and so reasons. So when you're also looking into these principles, it is also great to sort of look at those kind of interconnections, and then that also helps to build a better case for the kind of proposals you're doing. Yeah. So that is it broadly. Before we have a few questions in the form of interaction, but before that, Manju, just in terms of time check, how much time do we have? If you could just give a heads up. Manju? Sonal, Shaman,
Yeah,
sir.
we have some time for some questions. We are
Okay.
good with the time.
Okay.
We're going good on time.
Okay, fine. Yeah. And also both to DULT and WRI team, anybody else wants to add anything to the whole presentation before we open up for discussion? Sudeep, Sonal, Manju, Chetan, Sanmay sir.
No, I don't have anything to add. Thanks, Rajeev.
Okay, fine. Okay. So what we will do is if you have your own set of questions to ask, we are happy to take. But there was a question from our side also based on this presentation which you have seen. We wanted to just broadly understand, you in the initial phase of SUMA, you submitted your proposals and you had written down, certain vision proposals, all of that. So based on the understanding of this presentation also and something which you already worked on, what kind of a vision do you have so far in the SUMA proposal you have given, or generally for your neighborhood also? And this vision is not just particularly in the form of just giving a statement, but also something which you believe that you could achieve this for your neighborhood. So if any one of you want to just take up that question to say that what is the vision you have for your neighborhood, or have you thought of anything so far as and when you were developing your proposal? Mr. Rishi. Can you have
Yes. Yeah, so I think Amit can throw more information on that. I had one general observation. So we talked about 5 points. And I think one more point which we should discuss later on, or maybe you can help us with that, is on sustainability, right? So we talked about conceptualizing and then implementation. And, it's not about one-time implementation, right? Because whatever we are building, it has to build for the sustainability. So sometimes, we have new members joining and then we implement something and then people get busy and, officials get transferred and then there's no ownership on the support. So we, for example, plantation, right? So if we put up the plant and then nobody's there to take care of it, right? So we need to also make such initiative sustainable in longer run. Be it, garbage
That's
collection. It could be anything,
Yeah.
right? So BBMP may change policies and then tomorrow we struggle that, we had to connect with some BBMP guys. So how do we make it, continuously running as a well oiled machine, right? Otherwise we keep focusing on the same thing, right? We build something, we fix it again. So our time is wasted on that and we are not able to think new things.
Should we call it sustenance then?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Can we have Mr. Gautam had raised his hand but went down. I'll come back to Mr. Achyuta Rao. I just wanted to see if other communities and groups also would want to talk. We have Mr. Bharat, maybe he can take up.
Thank you. I'm Bharat from Rotary Bangalore Rajmal Vilas from the Dollar Colony Sanjay Nagar area. So this is a very good presentation. It was very informative. What we are looking at is actually we have identified a place, a central locality in Sanjay Nagar area, where we want to make it a pedestrian only zone, a kind of a very small plaza kind of thing. And we want to see if we can, because budget is also limited, we want to see if it can be showcased as to international standards in terms of cleanliness, in terms of signage, in terms of seating, in terms of green cover, in terms of being pedestrian friendly, in terms of being safe for everybody, a place for people to relax in the evenings. And all. We have identified such a location. We want to see if at least one location we can make it to international standards and also keep it that way. Because it should not get overrun with, we need the cooperation of the government and the BBMP after that, because after we do it, it should not get overrun by one particular section of, say, hawkers or squatters or somebody else, which defeats the whole purpose with which it is first made. We make Sanjay Nagar, we've had the experience of creating a nice footpath, but has been taken over completely by hawkers. So
sorry to interrupt. I do understand you. The idea is you want to take one spot and sort of develop it as to its best standards to showcase that as a model for the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
So my also question is,
scale it up later.
So my question is that, what you're talking about is one intervention in your neighborhood, but what is the reason or rather a bigger vision for your entire neighborhood? Let's say you do it in one spot of the neighborhood. Is that going to benefit everyone, or it is going to benefit only people who surround in that area? Or rather, what could be a scaled up version of that, or what is a bigger vision which you want to achieve? And this will be your first step. That's what we're trying to ask.
Yeah, bigger version is possible. It's all we want to scale it up subject to budget. So
no, budget is fine.
We can give you.
But generally,
what we want,
it could a vision could be something which you sort of wish for or rather want to achieve, right? So if at all, for example, you're talking about developing a public space in the street in your neighborhood. So your vision could be talking about creating these kind of spaces in other parts of the neighborhood, or rather creating a larger network of safe walking streets in your neighborhood, right?
Yes. One thing is creating other spots.
So the idea what we're trying to...
Sorry, go on.
No, the idea what I'm trying to say here, convey here is that then your vision sort of becomes creating safe walking streets or safe public spaces in your neighborhood, right? So that's the larger goal you want to try to achieve in your neighborhood, and one space which you're trying to take and develop sort of becomes your first step towards that vision.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So that's what we're trying to convey, that although you are focusing on one project to sort of develop that, if you sort of start planning your project in a way that, this is the larger goal for your neighborhood and we want to achieve this as the first demonstration project. So even when you're sort of reaching out to BBMP or DULT or anyone like an implementing agency and pitch to them saying that, this is the larger thing which you have planned for the neighborhood, but we are doing this under SUMA. At least then they will also get a sense of a larger perspective towards your neighborhood that, okay, these are 10 other things which we have to do, but they have done the first step. So we might think about taking up or funding for other projects, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
fine,
that's what
it.
we're trying to. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about, the whole idea of vision and principles here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Achyuta Rao, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I saw Bangalore in 50s. I was part of it, and I would like to come back to that my original childhood days. So I am building up a team. Yeah. So that all of us, the future generation also enjoy what exactly Bangalore was and
Yeah.
it should be for future also.
Yeah. No,
That is my vision.
actually that's a very, very brilliant point and a very, very good point to mention, because we've seen the whole transformation of, you know, these nice tree canopies in oldest streets completely taking over by a lot of development coming in, right? So sometimes the vision could also not be just progressive, that, you know, we want to build 10 other things. It could also be to undo, you know, a few things or not do too many things in the neighborhood so that we retain the existing kind of environment, right?
Old glory of Bangalore should be
Correct.
brought.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So that I think the learning from that is, when you're talking about creating proposals, it's not always about constantly putting in, dumping enough infrastructure, saying that we want more footpaths, more. Maybe let's say there is a green space or, you know, enough tree plantation area. We want to just secure that and not do anything to that and make sure that there is no encroachment happening there. So that itself can become a part of your proposal rather than creating more infrastructure. So okay, yeah, I agree with you, sir. The vision is to sort of retain or bring back the glory of Bangalore. You know, that's a very nice point. Yeah, Mr. Purushottam.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. See, our vision in our 8 wards, which we're working under Change Makers of Kanakpura Road, we have plans to, you know, for whatever the 12 kilometers that we have surveyed, which is our hub, and we are planning to cover it to from 12 to 50 kilometers down the line in 5 years by connecting to the peripheral roads. And also we have worked with BMRCL to ensure there are you know, proper roads and footpaths and accessibility to differently abled people. And all of members are also part of the CPP program, that is waste management program. Okay. And we are part of the ward committees. So whatever there is an issue, we involve people and we work with all agencies, government officials, be law and order, traffic. So this is how we, you know, we engage in all kind of activities to ensure, you know, this is basically it's a hub and spokes model, which we are as part of the change maker.
Yeah, no, that's again another great point. You know, here when we are talking about the idea of creating vision also, it's sometimes it might not always be about a physical development of an area only, but also about processes and, you know, these kind of systems which we are creating, like how Mr. Purushottam mentioned, the idea of, you know, how do we integrate different representations from the neighborhood, right, from stakeholders to government representatives to police, you know, all of these people, even hospitals and all of those things. So the way to create that model, not only for one small area, but also how that could be scaled up to serve larger or more number of areas in a neighborhood, along with the physical development which is happening. Yeah, that's a great point again. Yeah, thank you. Ms. Shashidhara. Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. So we are representing HSR layout, and our vision is to improve mobility in HSR layout. And primarily, we have seen a lot of problems with respect to pedestrians crossing the streets at many intersections. So our first intervention can help change this pattern and provide easy access to all walks of life people, and expand that to the entire layout. So as a pilot, we might be doing 1 or 2 interventions, and then showcase that how signages, pedestrian crossing can be beneficial at certain very busy intersections, and then scale that to other parts of the layout and later to the entire city. And this is one of them. Second one we are also looking at is how do we ensure last mile connectivity within the layout and make that sustainable last mile connectivity with shuttle services, with point-to-point connections. And we have identified streets that has a maximum movement of people, and you know, that will also help people to take up non-motorized or shared services, and connect to the bus stands and connect to the places of shopping and things like that. So this can become a model for us, like if we implement in 2 or 3 streets, and based on the utilization pattern and the promotion, this can become a model for the entire layout, then later to other localities within Bangalore. So that's our vision.
Yeah, that's very aptly put. I think there's not no, it's very clear. So very good. Yeah. Someone from Wow Group.
Our vision is mainly on holistic concern. So as we said earlier, we had described in the proposal too, how do we have point to point, like from SRT slum to the senior citizen park, which is the accessible, but taking care of different things like street lights, pedestrian lane, and safe cycling, how we can have it. And one more thing, major thing for us is having Mobility India. It's a very good therapeutic center we have. So it is very close to the metro station, and how more of the public accessibility is there. But right, we are all struggling a lot. So how do we make it? We want to make a good model there with different ramps or different tactical intervention, which could be a real model which can be adopted and elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, and also like we have our street, which is 17th B, where we make a lot of changes. So we want to make our 17th B as a model street. Like, okay, in terms of lighting, in terms of green, in terms of safety, taking care of all these concerns.
Yeah, and also if I'm not wrong, you have a set of institutions for specially abled kids, right? So I think so you have lower economic groups, specially abled plus senior citizens. All of this mix. I think it is in fact the most challenging thing you have taken up, but I think the most interesting case which you can build. Especially the fact that a lot of infrastructure in the city doesn't focus on these kind of, these sections of people. So I think your vision could also focus on creating models or possible tools where, the rest of the city can also adopt, which can help, specially abled or, senior citizens, most lower economic groups to sort of identify. So although you're talking about building a street as a model, what would be also interesting is to explore these other parts, create smaller changes for which can address these kind of groups which exist in the community. And yeah, if you can look around vision much more than the physical infrastructure and to look at these other processes, and that's something which would be very good.
Sure, sure.
Anyone else? I think Shashidhara had already, we have taken that. Okay. Great. Anybody else left? I don't think so. Okay, good. So in that case, before I just come back to this slide, I just wanted to hear from the rest of you if you had any questions or concerns. We'd be happy to answer. Nihar, you want to just go?
Yeah, I'll just be brief, but so hey, this is Nihar from Dodinekundi, and I think there's a couple of things that we are aiming to do with some of this work, and Dodinekundi I think is quite different from some of the other neighborhoods that are in the way that it's a suburban area, it's new and has been developing only recently over the last decade or so. And so that's why infrastructure in general is something that definitely needs a lot of work. But I think one of the interesting sort of another local context aspects of this area is that it's highly diverse. And so that means that a lot of people from other states, to some extent from other countries, and so that brings in a sort of really interesting situation across economic backgrounds. And so it's a highly diverse population. And I think one of the best aspects of a project like this is that it builds ownership amongst residents. And so even though people might be from very different backgrounds and from different places, this sort of builds some ownership and responsibility towards the place that we live in.
Yeah. No, that's good point, Nihar. I mean, just to also, highlight one point from that is the fact that he said people from different states come in. Each of the neighborhoods which you develop could also be shaped in a way that it's not only serving for your own, residents of your neighborhood, but also if someone as an outsider is coming to visit your neighborhood, can they sort of find uniqueness, in the kind of development which you're making, so that they feel that, I've come here, this is something nice I've seen, which is very unique to this neighborhood, which I can sort of take back as a learning. So you can also think about, addressing not only the community within your neighborhood, but also can that sort of set a model for others who are coming and visiting that, that's something which is nice to take.
Right, that's interesting points, like sort of building an identity for the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, concerns, anything you want to ask? We're just happy to take questions. And also, particular to mention, if rest of the participants, if you missed out or anyone who has not spoken, it would be great to hear from you as well. Okay. Okay, no questions so far, I guess. Okay, we have Jayanti.
Based on the data that we have collected, do we know at this point what each of the communities want?
I am not sure. That's a question, or you want to?
No, I'm asking you because we have done the data collection phase, data gathering phase, and data analytics is being done.
Yeah.
So, are you able to at this point give us an indication on what has been inferred from that?
Okay, we are in process of doing that. Manju, you want to take that question? Manju or Sonal?
Rajiv, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Data analysis has been done, and it broadly shows what requires for the neighborhood. So there is a light throwing upon from the data. And we will be sharing the report with all the community partners in weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. So essentially, one part which has been done is to sort of understand the data and sort of assimilate that into certain inferences. Like Manju saying, the next coming weeks we will be sort of presenting that and showcasing what are those inferences and how that could be done. What would also be important is once you have the data in place, and since you as a neighborhood representatives have already collected the data, you could have also got some clues, based on people responding that, this is the kind of a requirement from people based on the questions we have done. So it would be nice to not only just look at this data through analysis point of view, but since you're jumping to the next step of design and principles, just look back at the data and see that, having collected this, is this impacting or creating a certain inference to create my vision, design principles and project components. So the ultimate goal is to use this data into your proposal, and that's what will really help you to strengthen it as well. So let's say if you're creating, for example, a junction improvement at a certain junction which is very chaotic and there are a lot of accidents happening, right? So one of your key goal is to improve that junction or improve the safety in that junction. So the way your data is going to help is to record, since you have recorded, let's say, a bunch of interviews saying that people say that, this is unsafe here, or you might have some police data which says that these are so many number of accidents which have happened at this particular area. So that will help you to strengthen the case to say that we are taking up this junction because we have heard from our interviews that, this is an unsafe place, but also we have a actual police record which says that there are so many number of fatalities which have happened in the last 2 years or 5 years, and that's why it becomes important. So it is very important to sort of start correlating your data, to your proposal, but there is an intermediate stage, like Manju was saying, that we will help you sort of present that and understand the inferences from that and how do we sort of use that. And in also to mention in the coming sessions which we will have, for example, next session will be about the whole project development itself, right? From how do you use documentation, there is financing which has to be done as a part of your project. There are stakeholder consultations which have to be done. So we're going to showcase a few steps which will go as a part of your project development, and as a part of that we can even quickly explain how the data could be used as a part of your design or the proposal development to that. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, in that case, I'll just wanted to come back to this slide, which you can, which can be a sort of a takeaway for all of you, where since you have already developed proposals and you've submitted as a part of SUMA, so most of it is kind of covered as a part of this. But going back from this in the next 1 week before we come back to you with next set of presentations, like I said, it is more with respect to the project development itself and what goes under designing and implementing a project. So while we do that, you could take up the next week to think, about your project as a next step towards the proposal development in these 3 sections. One is, how do we, what kind of principles you want to choose as a part of your project. Second is, you might have already thought about project interventions and design components for your project. So you can even take a step back saying that, based on the interventions we want to, these are the principles we want to choose, or start from the principles and then go to the project interventions. But what is also important is like the vision you just talked about for your different neighborhoods, right? So use that as an anchor to develop principles and project interventions and design components for your respective proposals. So if you can start thinking about this and also sort of pen down a few of these, you could even think of creating just 1 or 2 slides which explain each one of these for the next one. So that could actually act as a starting point for the next project development stage. It will be very useful if you have given a thought to this and say that, this based on the vision we discussed in the last call, these are the principles we have and these are the project interventions we're thinking for. So that would be very helpful to sort of start building a case for your project, and we can also help you to sort of shape that and modify that, based on whatever is required. But without any hesitation of, whether there's enough data or no, based on your understanding and your experience, being a part resident of the neighborhood, if you can start thinking of these things as a first step towards, refining your proposal, that's something which will be very useful both for us as well as you as a neighborhood. Yeah. With that, at least I want to end presentation between me and Madhurami. We want to just close this presentation and off to Manju and DULT to just close this session.
Thanks, Madhura and Rajiv, for giving a broad picture on how to plan for the proposal. It is very relevant to their respective neighborhood. And as Rajiv has mentioned, the next workshop we are planning in a week's time, maybe 7 to 8 days time, we will get in touch with you for the next workshop. Just wanted to let you all know that so that it will be like you can plan accordingly. So by in 2 days time, we will send you the exact date so that you can plan accordingly. And this session has been recorded and we also will be sharing the presentation. So like it will be good for you to go back to the presentation and think about the proposal, what Rajiv has mentioned. And thanks a lot for all of you to come and join for the session. We'll be looking forward for the next session as well. Sanmay, you want to add anything?
No, that's all I think. Thanks a lot, Rajiv and Madhura, for your presentation. And thanks also to the partners for actively participating in the discussion and sharing their thoughts. And Manju has already told most of the things. So we'll also, as one question came related to the insights from the analysis that we have done, we'll be presenting that to individual community also down the line. We'll intimate about that also. And request all of you to please take the concluding notes that Rajiv mentioned which will be useful for developing the proposals. Those points will be interesting, and those are key actually to take it forward. So with that, thanking all of you from DALT and WRI side, I think we can close now if there is nothing else. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajiv and Madhura. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rajiv and Madhura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
all the communities to come forth in